All right, hello everyone, and I am here for a demonstration video for you guys. The one thing that I wanted to cover, haven't really gone over a video involving this specifically, so I was going to take the time to do that, and it has to do with ball and what balls to play, when to use them. I have quite a few balls in my inventory here that I'm going to go over. And, I just wanted to just give you a brief demonstration on kind of all the different types of balls available and why and when to use each and every one. So looking at basic ball here, I recommend using this pretty much exclusively up through Tour 4. Once you get to Tour 4, it starts to get, you might want to start thinking about throwing on a marlin ball just to have a little bit of extra side spin. That's the first tour where curl really becomes important. And you could have a couple shootouts where, a curl shot or having some side spin is going to be very useful. So that's the first tour that I would recommend, really needing to switch up. And, there's going to be no power statistics, no wind resistance, no nothing on a basic ball. You're just going to be able to front and back spin, and that's it. Moving on, your first ball of choice is going to be the Marlin. Now, I like this ball for Tour 5, Tour 4, also, sometimes on Tour 6 and Tour 7. It really just depends. If it's a short par 4, we can just go ahead with a marlin ball and just hope that that little extra wind resistance, when you click on the ball like that, you can see that it says the effects that it has. So here you can see a wind 1 ball has decreased effects by 15%. Side spin allows you to put one amount of side spin, which is about 2.25 bars, 2 1/3 bars. There's 7 side spin available, so you'll see that one side spin gives you the option to have about 2 1/3 rings or so, 2 1/4 bars of side spin. A side spin 2 ball is going to give you twice as much, which will be about 4.5. And the side spin 3 ball, which is the maximum, will give you full side spin to the left or right, which is about 7 bars of side spin effects. So anytime that you click on and want to actually read the data on the ball, that's how you will do it. And moving on from that, Tour 6, Tour 7, I really like the use of navigators and quasars. So you can see by clicking on, 25% would be a win 2. Side spin, this is still going to have minimal side spin. But if you set up your bags accordingly, one side spin is going to be enough. Aside from that, you're going to also start to bring in that power 1 effects, where you can see 3% farther. So what is 3%? Let's look at your driver. Say your average driver is, say, 220 in length. Then you will get roughly 6.5 yards extra of power in a power 1 instance. A power 2 instance will be, a little bit more, 5%. The first power 2 ball that comes in is a Katana, and it's 5%, like I was mentioning. And, again, one of the biggest uses for this ball is the use of the side spin here. It's the cheapest ball available that has full side spin capability. So this is going to be, extremely useful, especially tours 9, 10, and 11. Those are the tours where curl, high winds, and all that wind effects is really going to start to come into play. And having that additional 3 side spin is going to make this a highly effective. I actually prefer this ball to a Titan because power isn't a very mandatory statistic for winning. having this side spin and, really being able to, especially if you have weaker curls, clubs, then having that extra side spin bonus is going to really improve your precision that you can hit shots. So a very useful ball, and you can see Win 2 is going to have 25% wind reduction, which is going to give you that extra boost to win those shootouts. Anytime you can minimize wind, it's going to really increase your likelihood that you can win and execute shots more, consistently. So being able to, and one of the good things about this ball, it's available in the tournament packages. So when you look at if you were to fail to qualify on Monday, for instance, you could get a very cheap offer to pick these up. A technique that I very, use early on. You can see I have 37 balls on this account. On my secondary account, especially since I didn't really, emphasize buying so many balls of like the premium type balls. What I would do early on, and I think my inventory right now is like 350. I would just always pick up that offer for the Katanas, which is basically if you fail to qualify in rookie, it'll be a $1.99 offer. If you fail to qualify in pro, it'll be a $2.99 offer. $3.99, $4.95 up through expert or masters if you fail to qualify on Monday. So one of the techniques that I used to do is I would fail to qualify on Monday in rookie intentionally, basically forego any round at trying to qualify intentionally just to get that cheap $1.99 offer. It comes with also 500 gems. It's a good way to get that gem count up early on in the game for a very cheap rate. So you can see, I really don't like to, have to purchase those packs down at the bottom, but I will if I ever ran out of these balls, for instance, and really needed them, because they are, very useful. But in my opinion, the better deal to pick up Katanas is going to be the failed to qualify offers. So something to think about for that ball. Moving on to the Titans. Very similar ball. You can see those packs down at the bottom are going to have the same rate to purchase. And these you can win in the tournament. You can't get them from the qualifying packages. So, the way that you're going to go about getting these are going to be based on tournament performance. So if you want to use my tournament guides, and really focus on improving your game, that's going to be the best way for you to increase this ball count. And as you can see, I'm up to 100 now. I used to have none of these balls, but they just changed the packages, and I played pro on this account the last 2 tournaments and was able to finally get up a Titan inventory. So you can see I almost have 100 of these balls now, and you can see the effects for this is Win 2, which is going to be that same 25%. Side spin, it's going to have that mid-grade side spin that I mentioned. The about 4.5 bars is going to be what you're going to be able to put on, but it's going to be able to give you that 7% boost. So let's look at 7% in terms of, let's look at that 220 number again. 220 times 7 is roughly 15 extra yards. So, 2.2 times 7 is roughly 15 extra yards. So you would, if you had a 220 driver, for example, it would, change it to a 235-ish, which is going to almost give you that APOC level power. So, a very useful ball for if you need a power attribute. But in terms of for basic overall play, I prefer having that side spin just for shootouts that I might need to curl. If I can avoid curl, it is going to allow me to be more precise and win quite a few more shootouts. I have quite a few accounts where, I have very high win percentages, and a lot of the success comes from being precise on the shootouts, which is resulted from a lot of Katana usage over Titan. But you can see, it's almost pick your poison. They're almost identical balls. One just favors power, which isn't really a mandatory statistic for winning in Golf Clash. But it is nice to pull out when you do need. So, I like having these in my inventory, and I'm really glad that they did add them to the tournament packages. But like I said, the only way you can win these right now currently is by tournament performance. So, best to focus on some of my shootouts or, tournament guides and really, start honing in on those techniques that I've been demonstrating for you guys so you can increase your tournament performance. Moving on from Titan, the next that we're going to go over is a Kingmaker ball, and you're going to see the advantages to this ball is 35% wind reduction, which is a third. It's over a third. So if the wind is 20, it's going to be reduced 7 miles per hour almost. It's very significant. 20 goes to 13, gives you a chance to win. 15 goes to 5, or goes to 10, sorry. And it just really helps you hone in and win a lot of games. You can see those packages down in the bottom. I've never bought one of these balls ever. The way that I keep my inventory is by tournament performance and also using these sparingly on the tour. I really highly recommend saving these balls for Tour 9, 10, and 11. Same with Titan and Katana. You really don't need these balls early on. I try to go through Tours 6, 7, and 8 with Navigators and Quasar balls almost exclusively. But in those instances, those rare instances where you need a long par 5 and you might need to pull out a little bit of extra, maybe the wind's straight in the face and you're really worried about not getting to the green somewhere, that's the only time that I'll kind of, upgrade my ball, maybe use a Kingmaker, maybe use a Titan. So you can see that, it has full side spin. It has the same as Titan distance-wise. And this is going to be a very useful ball that if you ever have a headwind, and it's a very strong headwind, then this is going to be a very useful ball to bore through that wind, to minimize the wind, and to get it out there a farther way on a long par 5, for example. So it's a great time, especially in Tour 9, 10, and 11. And if you watch my streams and videos, you'll see those are the times, those are the big instances when we have strong headwinds where I really fear that I'm not going to reach the green. And those are going to be the times that you're going to see me pull those out. Alternatively, if I am going with a little bit weaker driver, for example, a rock or a QB, in those later tours, having this ball and getting to the shootout and having that extra length on your driver is going to be a nice safety net. So you'll see me, if I'm putting out guides for you guys, you will see me use them with more of a weaker driver. If I have a stronger driver, I'll just downgrade to a Katana because the replacement factor is so much easier for a Katana than it is a Kingmaker. If you look at it in terms of if you were to buy those packages at the bottom, it's essentially 4-to-1. So a Katana is 4 times cheaper to pick up. But as I mentioned, I've never picked up one of these packages. If you have great tournament performance and are very sparing with your use of this ball, then you too will have, similar, ability to maintain and keep. You can win a couple hundred of these per tournament. So, and that's enough for me to put out guides for you guys. I mean, if I wasn't putting out guides in Rookie, Pro, Masters, and, all these shots that I'm just wasting balls on, my inventory would be growing even farther. So, it really just shows that, if you can serve balls and only kind of pull them out when you need them, you will definitely give yourself, a very good ball inventory in stock just by, kind of minimizing your tour play, basically only playing enough to get through leagues, and then just saving the rest for tournaments. So let's move on and let's talk about a little bit more of the specialty balls in case that you do have them. And I'm going to go over, here's an eyeball that I still have from Halloween. You can see the wind effects 55%. So one of the techniques that I use, I pull these out very sparingly. I've only had about maybe 50 of them total. And you see I'm down to 17. So that just goes to show you how rare I pull these out. But one of the major reasons to pull this out is on a par 3 in a tournament where you're trying to take a wind from, say, 15 and make it a 6.7, for example, and really give yourself a chance to get that hole in one. So you can see not a lot of power attributes, not too worried about that, but all these high wind balls, that's going to be their sole purpose, in my opinion, is to really give yourself that nice wind reduction. I save these for tournaments pretty much exclusively because that's kind of the recipe for success in winning tournaments, or at the very least, making sure that you don't make pars in unnecessary spots. If you put on a win 55 ball, you are going to be able to keep the ball in play and, be very precise and keep, from hitting disaster on certain holes. So this hole can be, this type of ball can be very pivotal. Here's one from Thanksgiving that we're going to go over. Same effects, same kind of rationale is going to apply, but the one big difference, it has just a little bit more power. So I basically, pick and choose based on, do I need that little bit of extra power? If I do, then I'll put on the turkey ball. One thing that I forfeit when using this ball is a little bit of extra side spin. So if I really need that little bit of extra side spin boost, maybe I'll go with, for instance, the eyeball. Or if you guys picked up the Bandera ball, this is basically an eyeball. So everything that I just gone over for eyeball is essentially what you guys just ended up picking up. And as you can see, I did buy more of these for this account for that sole purpose, to have that backup inventory, because it's been 6 months since we've seen a ball like this, which is quite a bit of a long time, and that's one of the reasons that you see me picking this up. But the same similar type things are going to apply for those balls. So let's go over next the mummy ball. Now this ball, you can see, has a win 4 ball. It decreases the effects by 45%, which almost is 50%. So, if we're looking at a 15 wind on an expert tournament, 14 wind on an expert tournament, for example, that will reduce it to, 7 and change, 7 something. So 7.7, for example, 7.5, somewhere in there, gives you that, same type of security that I mentioned. But I do pull these out a little bit more for tough par 4s as opposed to par 3s, unless it basically is absolutely perfect for a par 3. I need that extra power, for example. You can see the power is the 7%. So let's say, I'm getting towards the end of a club. Then, I might throw this on for a par 3 because it still has that nice wind resistance. But additionally, it's going to give me that extra power that I may need to execute the shot, to actually, not have to go into power or anything like that. So that's going to be, and this is another ball that I'm really going to, really be looking at my tournament wins. If I have a headwind, these are the times where I'm going to be thinking about on a par 4 using this. Would be a headwind par 4 where I'm trying to get the ball out there and give myself a really good chance for hole out for an eagle on a par 4, which, might have a lot of headwind, where I'm going to have the same distance as a Katana, but that extra 10% reduction is going to let me to actually drive it, not Katana, Kingmaker, that extra wind resistance is going to allow me to outdrive a Kingmaker ball into a headwind. Now, the reverse happens when we talk about tailwinds. So when looking at tailwinds, you're going to want balls that keep the wind effects down. You know, a 25% ball is going to give you a good opportunity to really launch the ball downwind, or 15 is even better. If you can put on a 15% ball, it's really going to allow you to launch it on par fives. So let's start to talk about that a little bit, and we'll start with touchdown because it has the same Kingmaker power, which is 7%, which is that extra, you know, if we're looking at 220 and basically 235, just like I previously mentioned. However, it's less wind resistant than Titan. So, you know, you're never going to use these in headwinds because there's not enough wind resistance there. You're better off going with a Kingmaker. But if you really want to launch the ball past the Titan, this wind resistance being smaller will allow it to carry farther and also roll out farther because of it's hitting harder and creating more topspin by launching farther. So this is going to be, you know, this ball is also referred to as a mini berserker because it has very similar statistics, just less power. So it's not going to quite carry as far, but it has the same wind resistance. So that would be a reason that you would pull out a touchdown ball type statistic ball. So aside from that, in terms of your next ball that we're going to go over, would be a Snowman. Same type of thing. It has the wind resistance of a Titan ball, the 25%. It has full side spin capabilities, but it has power 4. So it has even longer length than Titan, but the same wind effects. And you can see with that 3 side spin, this is a very useful ball for curls. So I'm very sparing with when I pull these out. I usually try to save these for optimal type cases when I try to do a full hook or a full slice shot, because of the fact that this extra side spin boost is going to give me that extra curl that I need to really bend it around the corner. So this is the type of ball that I kind of isolate to being able to save, because there's no way to replace this type ball. So I'll only pull this out when I really need that extra 3 side spin, because there's no other ball like that has the same stats and that full side spin. When we look at the Berserker, it doesn't quite have the side spin, but it has this a little bit less wind resistance and more power than a Snowman. And you know, all of these are going to be great tailwind balls. Everything I'm going over right now is just going to, you know, the first type of balls we started talking about were the headwind balls. Now we're starting to kind of group things into the Berserker ball and, you know, getting more launching the ball down there in tailwinds. Sometimes on the occasional side wind, just depends on, you know, situational based. But primary use for these balls are going to be, you know, in tournament use. I really don't bring these out in tour play very much. And as you can see, I have quite a few of them. And these type of balls can be replaced. You know, you get them in master tournaments, and you also get them in golden shot videos. So you'll see me use this ball a lot as opposed to a Snowman, for example, because I can't replace Snowman. I can replace Berserkers. So you'll see me, I'll overuse a Berserker as opposed to a Snowman, even though the statistics are, you know, you could say that they're a little bit weaker on a Snowman. Like I said, I just kind of save those for that when I need that additional side spin to what I can't do on a Berserker ball. If I need to curl it and really bend it around a hard corner, Snowman just becomes, you know, just a pivotal ball. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about Globe. Now you can see there's not even a wind resistance on this. So it has all full effect winds. If the wind is 20 downwind, it's 20 downwind. The only time you should ever pull this out is on a tailwind. And the biggest reason is to hopefully get it up to a pitch range. You really, if you don't think you can get it up to a pitch or a putt, there's no reason to pull this out. But it would be to drive a par 4, drive a par 5, or get it into a pitch range. You can see that it still has that full curl effects, the side spin and curl. So, similarly to what I was mentioning about Snowman applies to this ball. But additionally, it has that same power as a Berserker ball, but it'll carry even farther downwind because it doesn't have that wind resistance to shorten the length. So this ball is longer than a Berserker. It hits harder. It goes farther. These are going to be very, very special balls. And that's one of the reasons that you can see me not, I use these very sparingly. In fact, I actually just reserve these for you guys exclusively. I put out these guides for you guys, and usually I'll pull these out for you on expert or master, and I end up forfeiting my round out anyways. So, these balls are just kind of for demonstration for you guys to kind of help you guys on your guides. But for the most part, you can see that I'm very sparing with these. Early on, this is actually the last tournament where you could win balls. So I played the expert tournament. I won, and I got 300 just for that. And this was the last tournament that happened. So, this ball is not replaceable as of now. There's never been another ball come out like it. It's the longest ball in existence right now in this game. And, I don't know if it's coming back. I really don't. I've heard rumors that it's not. But if you'd ever like to see this ball again, you would have to, voice your opinion in putting in support tickets, and just if the public wants them and there's enough outcry, that's the way to get these balls to come back. So now that we've kind of gone over that, we've almost covered everything. I just want to touch base on just a couple more balls that I really didn't hit. For me, this ball was an entire miss. It's basically the most pointless ball that they kind of put out. It's the only one that I kind of disagree with, because it was a pay-for ball. You had to buy these balls. You couldn't win them, and the stats on it are worse than a Kingmaker. So you're playing for free Kingmakers, but spending on pot of gold balls just didn't really sit right with me. And in my opinion, was just a huge mistake. Early on, I just picked up this 10-pack that they put in the shop just to have kind of in my collection, just as kind of, hey, I have these balls. I have virtually every ball at the time. But I've kind of given up on that since. I didn't pick up the new Royal balls. But I do want to show you that this dead ball, let's talk about the Royal balls real quick, because they have the same power attributes as that Snowman that I showed you guys, but it has that Kingmaker wind resistance. So it goes longer than a Kingmaker, and it has that same exact wind resistance. The side spin, the only thing it forfeits is a little bit of side spin, but the usage of this ball is pivotal for headwind shots, just like the Kingmaker. Anything that's into the wind or even a side wind, this is going to give you outstanding length, and just give you the possibility to just get that much closer, to maybe, get up to the next club. If you were going to be hitting a sniper, maybe pulling out a Royal ball or a dead ball, you're going to be able to, get it up to that long iron, and give yourself that opportunity to be that much closer for a hole out. So as I mentioned, You really shouldn't be using this much for tailwinds at all because there's other balls for that. It's more of a, but at the same time, this is probably the best well-rounded ball in the game. It just has a little bit of everything. It's basically like the Thor's hammer of drivers. Thor's early on, it just has every statistic. Nothing's like super impressive, but it just has the best collection of everything overall put together. And the dead ball is kind of like that. It's not going to be the most aggressive power ball. For instance, the Apoc, the best analogy that I can give you for a dead ball is kind of like the Thor's hammer. Because, there's going to be other drivers that have more accuracy. They're going to have more power. They're going to have more topspin. But Thor's hammer has the best of everything. It just has just the right amount of every statistic to make it such a useful club. And the dead ball and the Royal Ball is the exact same way. It has everything collectively to just make this a great ball. And, for me, I recommend headwinds, side winds, multi-purposes. I would save them primarily for tournaments, but hopefully you guys picked up, quite a good collection. If if you picked up a lot of them, you can pull them out from time to time in tour play. I would just basically kind of focus on, going through a Kingmaker or Katana when you, for the most part. But if there's that one time that you're just like looking at this and you're like, I'm really a little worried that my Kingmaker might not get there, that's when you pull out the dead ball. So with that being said, we've almost touched on every type of ball in the game. The only one that I kind of left out that I want to just make a brief note about, I guess, is Santa Ball. So what you can notice about this is it doesn't have any power attributes at all. So early on people didn't really understand the usage of this, but I almost had it not been for me wanting snowballs, the Snowman Balls more, I would have actually went down to actually get these balls because I knew they were going to be so useful. Not having that power attribute can actually be a very important tool. So, for instance, if we're looking at drivers in par threes in the tournament, you can only place the club so short, for instance, and, specific landing zones just aren't reachable on certain power attributes. Every other Win 5 ball has power attached to it. So either 3 or 5% or whatever, that extra power is going to basically increase the minimum you can put the club. So let's just say, hypothetically, my min club is 200 yards, for example, or I think it's 180. 3% extra to that or 5% extra that is going to place it 5-6 yards, 7-8 yards farther onto where you can put the minimum distance of the club. What this Santa Ball allows you to do is keep that minimum distance at the specific minimum distance. So it can really help bridge the gap between finding, min distances. And additionally to that, it has the, 55 wind resistance, very good par 3 ball. We have already touched on the 55% balls, and that's the biggest attribute for them. Aside from that, it has the full side spin as well. So you can really jack the side spin over to the side and prevent using curl, which is going to give you a very good chance to be very precise and potentially get that hole in one. This is one of the most useful balls in the game. I really hope that you guys can convince them to, put out another version of this in the future. because of what I just mentioned, that high wind resistance and really being able to, bridge the gap between, that Power One. The big difference between that and Eyeball, you can see it has power on these and the Santa Ball doesn't. So having that Santa Ball in your inventory really lets you take that min club distance, also the max, but more importantly, the min. And you can basically, on a par 3, be like, okay, well, if I need to set min, 5 yards farther, I'll put an eyeball on, or, a turkey ball if necessary, if I need to get that min distance up just a little bit for a certain landing zone. So, with that being said, we've basically, everything else that I didn't touch on, there's a similar ball. I basically went over all the types of balls and kind of when to use each and every one. And everything else is going to be very similar to, related. It's best to just focus on, all those tips and techniques that I gave you and when to use kind of each and every one of these, as saving these for the optimal times is going to be, in my opinion, your best way to succeed in this game. So good luck with your Golf Clash performances, and I'll catch you guys later.